Okay, now come on. uh, we're back at the Daily Dope Show here, and I would love to go through one solid week without having to do a fucking story about Jeff Sessions and his goon squad. But apparently that's not possible because they just continuously keep beating this war drum against marijuana, and it's getting to the point where they're not being shy about it. They're not like telling you that it's, that maybe medical marijuana is okay. No, that train left the station. And let me tell you what I mean. First of all, you have this tweed guy here with this $5,000 tie, and who knows how much he paid for the rest of this suit. But you got this guy. He's Sessions' number two guy over there at the department, the Attorney General's office, and his name's Rod Rosenstein, and he's testifying about marijuana before a U.S. Senate committee. And I think what this Senate committee is they are a kind of like a budget committee. Yeah. Appropriations subcommittee. So basically, they sit around and they bullshit with people, and and somebody that might be getting their funds held up or cut or otherwise Cole amendment recommending that they don't get funding, or that that marijuana is not high on the priority list, for example. So then this guy comes in and he goes, "Hey, whoa. Marijuana should be high on the priorities list," and then accompany that with a letter from Sessions. And what do you get? You get yet another chapter in this crazy fucking saga called Jeff Sessions' War on Medical Marijuana. War on marijuana, period. And we thought this war was well on its way to being over. But of course, there's these stalwarts, usually Republicans, most of the time, and they're usually Republicans that came from a bygone era where Ronald Reagan was looked at as a good icon of, I don't know what the fuck, Law and Order. Remember that? Law and Order. And you got to be a good Christian. Got to be good. The family values. Back in the day when Republicans talked about family values, nobody in the government has fucking family values, man. Are you kidding me? These people are all a bunch of crooks, liars, hacks. They're all paid for by the big fucking lobbyists and the big fucking corporations and the oil barons and the water barons, the Wall Street fucks. There's not... This guy, do you think this guy gives a shit about what the facts are? He definitely looks like he's never even seen a joint. This guy don't give a shit about marijuana or the people that need it for medicine or anything else. He's just a fucking paid suit like all the other ones in Sessions' Goon Squad. But with Jeff Sessions, I sincerely believe this guy just really does not like marijuana. So let me go ahead and read you this Westward article. The National Organization for the Reform of Marijuana Laws is sending a clear signal to the administration of President Donald Trump following the latest negative words and deeds aimed at the legal marijuana in Colorado and beyond by Justice Department officials Jeff Sessions and Rod Rosenstein. In the words of Normal Policy Director Justin Strukel, should the Department of Justice decide to throw out the 10th Amendment and respect for states' rights as they govern their own intrastate commerce, they're going to have a fight on their hands. Attorney General Sessions was supposed to speak at a U.S. Senate Appropriations Subcommittee yesterday, June 13th, but the appearance didn't happen because he was called before a different body, the Senate Intelligence Committee, to supposedly answer but mostly dodge questions about an alleged collusion between the Russian government and assorted Trump forces related to the 2016 presidential election. And if you want my take on that, I fucking hate to talk about it because there's no Russian collusion. All right, there's no Russian hackers that hack the election and all that shit. If you firmly believe that shit, you probably hate me right now because you're triggered. But calm down, take a couple deep breaths, and just realize that there's actually no proof of collusion between the Trump administration and anybody in Russia before the fucking election, leading up to it, during it, any of it. Even if there was some Russian hackers hacking around with the election, didn't have any collusion with Trump. And like I said in a video before, all this shit talk about, oh, the Russians hacked some shit and got Hillary's emails and then they released them and that influenced the election. That's the best case you can fucking make. That's still fucking full of horse shit too. There was no Russian hackers. The Hillary stuff was all based on leaks. The leaker or leakers, in one case, the leaker was John fucking Podesta himself because his password was password. That's pretty much saying anybody can look at my shit because hackers are going to come looking. And when you got somebody that dumb, yeah, you're going to try password right out of the fucking gate. So anyway, why would I even talk about this shit? That's the problem with this stupid media creation called the Russian collusion or whatever the fuck they call it. It's just a big distraction and I ain't got time for it. And I'll tell you what, if there's something good that can come out of it is they trip somebody like Jeff Sessions up in a couple of lies and he has to step down because he's just too bogged down in controversy. That would be fucking awesome. I don't care how fake this shit is. It can still snarl people and get them fucked over. And if that happens to Jeff Sessions, I think we'll all breathe a sigh of relief. But don't breathe, just like if Trump got impeached, you're looking down the barrel of a Mike Pence fucking presidency. So just like if Jeff Sessions got zapped, you're looking at this douchebag stepping in. And let me tell you, man, this guy is no fucking parade. What exactly is this guy about? Well, all right, for that reason, you had Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein appear in his place, and he responded to an inquiry about medical marijuana from Alaska Senator Lisa Murkowski, like so. She basically, I kind of shortchanged her question because her question was pretty heartfelt. She was like, well, I'm worried, I'm concerned. We have people doing legal business in our state that we regulate and we see as legal. We set the guidelines, and it seems like legitimate guidelines. Like nobody's going overboard. Nobody's turning into millionaires over this shit. It's not like causing a major public health problem or any of that kind of shit. So, her question was awesome. And his answer was, quote, we do have a conflict between federal law and the law in some states. It's a difficult issue for parents like me who have to provide guidance to our kids. Oh, come on. So if it's a hard thing to talk about with your kids, just make it illegal. What is harder to do to talk about it with your kids if it was illegal or legal? Because if it's legal, then you don't have to worry about your kids going to fucking jail if they get caught with it. Idiot. That's the stupidest argument. I've always seen parents shy away from talking to their kids about things. And it's like, you're gonna... It's marijuana, man. It's not even dangerous. But you don't want to tell your kids that because then they'll go right to it, right? You just tell them it's medicine. That'll make them bored and uninterested of it. So he said, I talked to Chuck Rosenberg, the administrator of the DEA, and we follow the law and science. No, you don't follow science. And it's easy to follow the law, but the law is a racist-based prohibition that was made way long time ago when it was used to subjugate the minorities, just like it still is today. And that's why you fucking old-time racists still want to have it around as a tool. It's your main tool, man. It's why most people are in jail, because of your stupid drug war. I mean, federally, it's like almost 20% of all federal offenders are fucking marijuana offenders. And believe me, the ratio of them being minorities is fucking staggering. From the legal and scientific perspective, marijuana is an unlawful drug. It's properly scheduled under Schedule 1, and therefore we have this conflict. Yeah, well, there's a lot of things wrong with your fucking assessment there, dipshit. First of all, from a legal and scientific perspective, marijuana shouldn't be unlawful from a legal perspective, legally, you look at law and why are laws made? And what is freedom? Freedom in America is the pursuit of happiness as long as you don't infringe on anybody else's freedom or anybody else's pursuit of happiness or rights. So technically, it's not lawful to even have a prohibition, period, especially of marijuana. So if it's not hurting or infringing on anybody else's rights or law, freedoms, then I should be able to consume it. So first of all, it should be lawful. And then second of all, you say scientifically speaking. Scientifically, cannabis is nothing but medicine. So scientifically, you have it completely wrong. Your science is completely not right. But you don't realize that you're talking about the federal government. They do have science that says it's medicine. They have a patent for that too. So maybe you should look at your own fucking government's paperwork and see where you stand on this shit. The scheduling topic is a hot one, as we reported, and there are multiple bills before Congress that aim to move marijuana from Schedule 1, a Drug Enforcement Administration designation that includes heroin and acknowledges no medical benefits, to Schedule 2 or 3, or even to remove it from the DEA schedule entirely. That's what I would do. Streichel, who favors descheduling, is hardly shocked by Rosenberg's statement. Quote, right now we're hearing nothing that we haven't heard coming out of the Justice Department. True. It's still along the lines of officials dancing around the idea of maintaining the existing status quo, where the federal government isn't interfering with legal state marijuana law, but the Deputy Attorney General doubled down on his non-commitment. And this is coming just a couple of days before the President's Commission on the Opioid Crisis is due to meet. Now, that's another one. What is that even for? And do they even care about real solutions? No. Normal members have been contacting the Office of National Drug Control Policy about the Commission's get-together. Streichel continues. Thousands of them have been writing letters and making phone calls saying medical marijuana has to be a part of our national response to the catastrophic crisis of opioid addiction and the ravages it wreaked on our citizens. There are real people who are dealing with this crisis. But in the meantime, Jeff Sessions and Rod Rosenstein still want to play games and want to continue this failed drug war. And right here is this Normal Policy Director, Justin Streichel. During the 2016 campaign, Trump had positive things to say about medical marijuana, even as he ripped recreational cannabis laws like those in Colorado. However, Streichel believes that with Trump so distracted by the scandals that have swamped the administration during his early days, that Sessions, a notable anti-pot zealot, is being allowed to push, his agenda, his anti-marijuana agenda, virtually unchecked. It's just a continuation of Jeff Sessions' dedication and, by extension, Donald Trump's dedication not to advance meaningful reform in the marijuana policy he allows. And he's continuing to ignore all the medical journals and studies about marijuana out there. One of the largest divides I see is when people, when we have people say, we don't have enough evidence about medical marijuana's benefits, we don't have enough information, we need to study more. But there are more than 25,000 articles on marijuana, and conversely, for Adderall, which is being prescribed to many of our children, there are just over 200. When I learned that statistic, my jaw dropped over the disparity between education and policy. And when it comes to efficacy and just doing double-blind studies, marijuana has hundreds, if not thousands of those, whereas some of these drugs like Adderall only had 2, OxyContin had like 6. I mean, they're all under 10. You only need one. Some of them don't even have any in the pharmaceutical book. So anyway, Sessions, for his part, may or may not have been focusing on marijuana this week, but his opinions were heard loud and clear thanks to the release by Marijuana Majority Leader and frequent Westward interview subject Tom Angel of a letter from Attorney General to congressional leaders that attacks the federal law preventing federal dollars from being used to fund medical marijuana, a medical marijuana crackdown. Basically, like saying that if the Cole Memorandum and the Rohrabacher-Farr Amendment were neutered so that medical marijuana wasn't protected, and the Ninth District Court ruling wasn't observed for those states that it applied to, And furthermore, that would basically free up the funds for them to do some kind of a crackdown, is basically what he's saying. And yeah, so let's read that letter real quick, real fast. We'll try to zip through this because Sessions, we already know. I've criticized everything he said, and he's using propaganda. All of his sources, you'll notice, are all propaganda sources and federal government agency sources, like doing their own like kind of like studies or whatever you want to call it. But let's just go through this. This letter is to the Honorable Paul Ryan and the Honorable Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, and Mitch McConnell. I write to renew the Department of Justice opposition to the inclusion of language in any appropriations legislation that would prohibit the use of Department of Justice funds or in any way inhibit its authority to enforce the Controlled Substances Act. Apparently that's the only thing that he thinks needs to get total enforcement. Like, there's so many laws that don't get enforced, and he keeps talking about it like, oh, we got to be able to enforce the law. As you know, the most recent continuing resolution contained a rider that restricts the department from using appropriated funds to prevent certain states from implementing their own state laws and authorizing the use, distribution, possession, and cultivation of medical marijuana, even though marijuana remains unlawful under the Controlled Substances Act. And then he gives us like paperwork for that. But we don't care about your paperwork for that. Let's just stick to the common sense shit. Last year, and over the department's objection, the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Ninth Circuit interpreted this provision broadly to apply both to department actions and prevent states from implementing their laws regarding medical marijuana, and to department prosecutions of certain individuals and organizations that operate under those laws. United States versus McIntosh. The court held that the department may not prosecute violations of the Controlled Substances Act with respect to marijuana unless the court concludes that the individuals or organizations are not in compliance with state medical marijuana law. As a result, the Ninth Circuit, many individuals and organizations that are operating in violation of the CSA and causing harm in their communities may invoke the rider to thwart prosecution. Not true. If the fucking communities know that they're causing harm in their community, then the fucking local cops can call you guys up anytime they want and say that these guys are not following the state law. So this is all just bullshit, man. We know it is anyway. So he says, I believe it would be unwise for Congress to restrict the discretion of the department to fund particular prosecutions, particularly in the midst of the historic drug epidemic and potentially long-term uptick in violent crime. All right, for one, you're fucking wrong on this long-term uptick in violent crime. There's none of that going on. None of it. And if there is, it doesn't have anything to do with marijuana. As you're going to see in this article here, there was less crime in border states after medical weed was legalized. But anyway, back to the stupid fuck Sessions. He's saying that there was also, the department must be in a position to use all laws available to combat the transnational drug organizations and dangerous drug traffickers who threaten American life. So there you go. Again, wherever marijuana is legalized, these guys aren't there anymore. If they are, they're not like wreaking havoc on the community. And you're going to see that it's like a 12.5% decrease in all kinds of shit, in crime in those areas. He goes on to say drug traffickers already cultivate and distribute marijuana inside the United States under the guise of state medical marijuana laws. In particular, Cuban, Asian, Caucasian, and Eurasian criminal organizations have established marijuana operations in state-approved marijuana markets. What's all this racism shit? Who the fuck? Why didn't you just say foreign nationals? That's all you need to say. You had to say Cubans, Asians, Caucasians, and Eurasian? What the fuck? What the fuck is wrong with this Jeff Sessions guy, man? He is the weirdest fucking old dinosaur fuck I've ever seen. I'm sorry about just constantly swearing, but this guy just gets my blood boiling. I'm trying to remain calm here. Individuals in these organizations often find a place for themselves within the state regulatory systems. For example, just this past month in Colorado, state authority alleged that an individual who held an active Colorado license for operating a medical marijuana business was the ringleader of a criminal organization that also shipped marijuana out of state. That's all you, dude. Take care of it. We're not saying you can't take care of shit like that. So what the fuck is your problem? What are you arguing? That you can go in and kick in any door the fuck you want? That's what you want to do, Jeff Sessions. You want to fucking go in and take out everybody, legitimate or not. You just want to go in and arrest everybody doing anything with marijuana because you want to feel important and awesome. But you're a dumb old hick, really. And by the way, do you even remember writing this? Because I seen your fucking testimony on TV, man. You look like a fucking senile old guy. Can't remember shit. Don't recall this. Don't fucking remember that. I've been smoking marijuana for most of my life, man, and I can remember a lot of shit. I can remember all kinds of who I've been with and who I talked to and where the meeting was at and whether or not they were a fucking diplomat or a fucking spy or, come on, man. Wake up, Jeff. It's probably the alcohol that fucking killed your brain cells. So let's see his propaganda angle. Smoking marijuana, in addition, has significant negative health effects. According to the National Institute on Drug Abuse, not your best source if you ask me, marijuana use is linked to an increased risk of psychiatric disorders such as psychosis, wrong, respiratory ailments such as lung infections, wrong, cognitive impairments such as IQ loss, wrong, and substance use disorder and addiction, wrong. And even if you do talk about use disorder and addiction, with marijuana, it's far less prevalent and it's far less dangerous and it's far less of a thing than any other drug, even coffee. So shut up, you fucking retard. The NIDA, I looked there in the Drug Facts on Marijuana, February 27. I don't know if this is some kind of a paper that they handed out to just like government thugs or something, but I went to their website and I combed hard and I could not find any of these. I think he just made this shit up out of his ass and then threw this NIDA source at the end of it to kind of look cool. Because acting like no one might be paying attention or some shit. Or this is just a little white lie or some shit. Dude, this is all like 1950s bullshit. Maybe the NIDA was saying that shit when they first got invented. But all of this shit's been fucking proven complete to be complete horse shit. All right, one recent study conducted in part by researchers at Duke University showed, for example, that people who started smoking marijuana frequently in their teens lost an average of 8 IQ points by middle age. That's that study. I looked at that study earlier this year, and I did a report about it. By the way, I don't know if you can find it because it might have been in one of my weekly shows, so it's in there somewhere. And then what they ended up concluding, though, is that you really can't make that conclusion because these people that they followed, and these people were also they were black males for the most part, because that's what the study was, to see what doing what substance abuse has different effects on different people and different racial backgrounds or whatever. Come to find out that a lot of these people that had all these negative effects had other problems, lived in poverty, were really low income or no income, did other drugs and drank alcohol and smoked cigarettes. So, that's horse shit. I don't know why I'm even going after his fucking little dipshit study, because we all know that he's gonna cherry pick any study he can that's gonna support his insane reefer madness. And then he's just going to stick NIDA like credentials on the back of some total garbage and pretend like no one notices it. But there's never been any study, period, that proved that any IQ points has ever been lost over smoking any kind of marijuana. It is thus unsurprising that in this last administration, both the Department of Health and Human Services and the DEA concluded that marijuana has high potential for abuse, no currently accepted medical use in the treatment in the United States, and a lack of accepted safety for use under medical supervision. All of which don't matter because we don't care about what the FDA says. The FDA, is that what the DEA goes by? The FDA will have you dying because they approve the craziest shit. as you can see. What's this? Oh, the FDA approves opioid painkiller OxyContin for patients aged 11 to 16. And, it says for people that, for kids who haven't benefited enough from any alternatives, they ain't talking about marijuana being one of them. So that was Jeff Sessions' bullshit. One of the biggest points I think he's trying to make is that there's this uptick in violence and there's this marijuana's behind it, and these cartel bosses are coming over here to grow marijuana in these medical marijuana states. Couldn't be further from the truth. In fact, medical marijuana is proven indispensable for many people, from autistic children to veterans with PTSD. There's even a case to be made that, used as a painkiller, marijuana could help solve the country's opioid problem, and being used as a crutch for people getting off of opioids. Hello. People using medical pot aren't the only ones reaping the benefits, though. A new study suggests that medical marijuana laws, now on the books in 29 states and Washington, D.C., have led to a decrease in violent crime in states that border Mexico. Areas closest to the border saw the most pronounced drop overall, and as well as in crimes related to drug trafficking, which suggests that legalizing the production and distribution of marijuana in the United States is hurting the Mexican drug trafficking organizations. Bingo. Hey, Sessions, did you hear that? Mexico supplies most of its illicit drugs to the U.S., around $6 billion worth across the border every year as profits from the smugglers. Yeah, that's just goes right into the smugglers' pockets. It's a violent industry and one that's hard to rein in without curbing demand. The study's author opens with an anecdote about high-tech fence in Arizona being thwarted by marijuana launching catapult. It's so easy to obtain a prescription, they argue, that medical marijuana laws are the de facto decriminalization. They create a quasi-experimental situation where we can begin to examine whether legal weed pushes illegal weed out of the drug market. It's kind of a no-brainer, man. And if Colorado would figure things out a little bit more, see, they have regulations that basically like a whole encyclopedia of regulations. And that's why a lot of people are afraid to get in the regulated market. Quite simple, they just get in the black market. They want to call it the gray market, but it's the black market. If you're not paying taxes, it's a black market. If you're selling shit in your house or in somebody's garage or in a car at a corner store, it's the black market. To see how changes in the state laws affected traffickers, researchers used data from the Uniform Crime Reporting Program, an FBI-maintained database. They found that medical marijuana legal states were linked to a 12.5% decrease in violent crime, homicides, aggravated assaults, and robberies in states bordering Mexico. Using data from the FBI's supplementary homicide reports, they attributed the decrease in homicides largely to a drop in drug-related killings. So that's like the exact thing Sessions was saying, was that these cartels, they don't fuck around. You owe them money and you don't pay it. They come and shoot you down. And we got a big increase in crime. And I think he's saying that legalized marijuana makes it so it's even worse. When you legalize marijuana, these cartel people sneak in and then they get regulated because somehow, even though you're not even a U.S. citizen, you can get a fucking house and an ID and fucking start growing weed and shit with a regulated card and everything will be okay. I don't know, man. I think Jeff Sessions is just fucking delusional. So there you have that. And there you have this. And I was going to kind of just ignore this story because I'm so sick of doing these Jeff Sessions stories, but then I read that letter and I just had to say, man, this is ridiculous. But yeah, fuck this drug war. This drug war, you guys can't win it. All right? 40 plus years and over $1 trillion, millions of people imprisoned and ruined, countless others records that ruined their fucking life. Who knows what kind of effects that had on the economy because all these people couldn't go to college and just basically couldn't even get decent jobs. The drug war created a prison industrial complex and an underclass of people that basically, never really got to live the American dream because they were always, under the shadow of this criminal record that was given to them for marijuana. It's time to fucking end this stupid shit, Jeff Sessions. 80 years of marijuana prohibition. You guys fucking lost. Get it over it. Just throw the fucking towel in.